Hello, this video is all about mistakes, or as I like to think about them, simple repairs. You may recognize the look of these. These are the fronts to a cradle that I call the dock. The dock is a cradle that holds the Festool Domino, in this case the DF500, and I drill all these holes with the countersink at the drill press, but occasionally that fragile cross grain chips out. I clean the chip out with a chisel, but I don't make them parallel. I cut them in a slight trapezoid shape. Since these are made of Baltic birch, I can just take a slice of that top face veneer and cut it again just by eye. The trick here is that wedge shape of the trapezoid, right? So I just get close and then I can just move it in to make it tighter and tighter. And then of course add a little bit of glue. I put a little piece of plastic in between to keep them from sticking to each other. And then we just wait. Then I can go work on something else and come back in a half hour or so. Now, I get it. It's just a shop jig, right? Why bother? But, you know, the repair is quick and easy and only takes a few minutes. But if I leave it, it stays that way forever. And within this big batch of DF500 docks, I only had a couple of them to repair. So to me, it was worth it. And then that little bit that's sticking out, I move on to the next step. And of course, I'm ganging all of these at the same time. I'll sand all these. The fronts and the sides get flushed up with the belt sander. And as you can see, each step makes that mistake less and less visible, or at least inconspicuous, right? Then I do a light chamfer on all the corners, and then typically I do this next process outside with a Dynabraid. I flush up all the faces, and that's looking pretty good after a couple of coats of lacquer, and there's a finished product. To me, totally worth it. All right, here's a good one. So I'm making this lid, right? Routing some sauce hinges, this smaller guy. And I usually use center marks, but I put marks, I transferred marks off of the box, let's see, here, off each end of this hinge, right? And I put them on here. In addition, I had a center mark, so I had 3 marks on here. Well, as you can see, I goofed. The mark on the right, that's my center mark, and I clamped the jig in the wrong place. So, mistake, hyphenate the word. I'll have to do a little inlay patch repair there. Oh man, it happens. So it's about all I have is fall off. So I think I can make one of these work. You can see there's like a dark spot here on the end, and it kind of has this subtle curve. I only need to do about a 1/2 inch. Well, maybe a little more. About a 1/2 inch, yeah. So I'm just going to take a slice off this, about that depth, 1/16. Let's see. Yeah, about a 1/16 plus, and then of course 3/8 wide. Yeah, this is such a good practice, and I believe it improves or at least maintains your skills. And here you can see the error of my ways. When I got my 16-inch joiner planer combo, I decided to keep this lunchbox planer because it's small and it's handy and it doesn't take a lot of space. All right, there's a piece cut. It's slightly thicker than the height. And you can see this dark spot there. So I'll just bring it in here like that. Let me see. Put a mark here. I'll just cut it right in there somewhere, round it over, shave it on the side just a tad, put it in, let it dry. Once it's in, I'll level it and then put the hinge in the correct location this time. So after years of doing repairs like this, similar to this, or maybe some sort of a repair with solid surface, or maybe a piece of hardware that needed fitted to a routed cavity, I've gotten to where I can literally just look at a radius and match it, you know, with a piece that's being inlaid. And that's such a huge thing when working in the shop, because when you make a mistake like this, you realize, that's no big shake. And here I just had to touch it up slightly with a sanding block. And I'm not sure why I cut this so short. It could have been a little bit longer. When I added the hinge, it left a tiny little corner that was exposed, but no big shake. It looks so good that I actually forgot to get a good photo of it and even look for it again. I forgot all about it. More of this plastic that I love using for clamping cowls. You can just put it directly into the glue, never have to worry about it sticking or adhering or bonding. Pops right off. And see, I don't always use a belt sander. Fantastic. And now I can continue to cut the mortises for both hinges. And I apologize for the redundancy of some of these videos. You may have already seen this process take place in another video I made about this particular box. But I'm always making mistakes, so and I had talked about creating a series called Mistakes, and so that's why this is included. So this is a plywood that I made by using 2 layers of 5mm plywood and putting a layer between them. The grain of the plywood runs this way, the layer between them runs this way, and of course the 2 outside faces run this long way as well. And before I put the outside faces, I put a strip of wood here because this will be visible in this component, and you'll see that later. However, I goofed on one of them, and when I laid the face veneer, I put it upside down. So that edge has the wood, and I needed it on this edge. So no big shake. I just basically undercut this so the veneer is still hanging out, and then I clean this up with a small shoulder plane, and then I can add this piece of wood here. Just slightly protrudes. It's basically flush here. I can glue that in place, and then I'm back to where I needed to be. So this is a technique that I used to do a lot with Formica, plastic laminate. We'd have to cut a door down. We wouldn't want that edging to be on the outside. We'd want it to be tucked in first on the edge, and then with the laminate, going over the top. Same process here, so lots of ways to fix things, yeah? All right, here are those panels, and that I had put wood on one side. You can see this grain pattern, this figure, it kind of aims up. And I needed that to be like that on both of them, like that, with a piece of solid wood at the bottom. Well, this one's correct. It has a solid piece of wood at the bottom. The grain's aiming up. And this is the one that I goofed on. I put the solid wood here. No big shake. I did an undercut on this end, the bottom end, and you can see I've flushed it up there. And so now all I have to do is kind of clean this up. There's a little bit of glue sticking out. So we'll put that in the vise. Check these out. Vice wedges. You can see they're numbered, 1/8 inch, quarter. I have these in imperial and metric. 1 3/8 inches. This one goes all the way up to 2.5. Magnets inside, round magnets, so I can put these anywhere I need. And so this panel is about that thickness. That dude goes there. Keeps the vise from racking. Boom. Okay, this one's actually pretty common. You can see the mark where the mortise was supposed to start. And so I took a blank piece, created another tenon, and cut that off at the bandsaw. And so now we have this plug of sorts, and we can fit it tight. Let me show you my process. So after sneaking up on a perfect fit with a hand plane, I cut it at the bandsaw into 2 pieces, because I only need one section of that, right? And then I cut a couple of wedges, add some glue, and then I can slip those wedges in to get that piece nice and tight. And I realize that my paws are kind of in the way of the view, but essentially what I'm doing is I'm slipping that wedge in upside down so the fat part is down at the bottom and about maxed out. And then I can put another wedge in and drive it in so it wedges that piece in squarely to the cavity. And here, this is probably dried a couple hours or something, and pull the shims out, remove that piece, and plane that flush. And no, this is not a commercial for the dock. I must have been in the process of cranking out another batch. I don't like planing glue, hardened glue, so I'm just getting a little bit out of the way with my pocket knife. And in all actuality, it probably wouldn't hurt a thing, but I don't know, just don't like it. And so once that's nice and flush, I won't sand it at this stage because I'll do finishing sanding later. And boom, that's a pretty good repair. I'm happy with that, and that'll be basically invisible unless pointed out. All right, so here's another one. I'm creating all these grooves in these components, and I'm using a dado blade and making 2 passes at the table saw. And I'm using spacers because I have 2 different width of components. This one's obviously thicker, but the groove needs to be the same. And so by using spacers, I can accommodate that without moving the fence. However, I thought I had these marked clear enough with blue, magic marker. This one's for the 1 3/4 components. This spacer is for the 3/4 components, but I goofed. I had this spacer in place, just not paying attention, and I cut this groove too wide. It's wider than it's supposed to be. So, super easy fix. I'm going to cut a piece to fit in there, glue that in solid, and then I can re-groove it. I actually prefer metric. I used a lot of metric at my old work. Some of our equipment utilized metric, and so we were basically forced to use it. And I use both types of measurements. Here, just for the fun of it, I've got about 11.9, 12, 11.9 millimeters. So let's see, the depth is
6.6. 6.6. So I'm just going to cut a piece to fit, and we're going to be using metric just because it's good practice.
all right. That's a pretty good fit. I can leave this slightly short, won't hurt anything. All right, and we can add some glue. Glue makes everything better. And, to make this component over would have taken a lot more time trying to get things set up. I've already moved on past the stage of routing the mortises and the tenons. So this seemed like the right thing to do. Easy fix. And I'll set that aside, go work on something else, let it dry. Or cure, I should say. So this probably set up for about 2 hours, plenty of time, right? And we can just plane everything flush. Adding a little bit of pencil mark just so I can see where I'm at. One more swipe. And we look good to go. All right, there it is. Ran it again with the correct spacer this time. And I'm looking for about 410 thousandths. 409 and a half, 411, that'll work. And you can just see a little sliver of a different color. It'll never show, and this is actually a top piece, so it'll be hidden very well. But anyway, yeah, mistake. It seems to me like a lot of these mistakes are super common. Here I've got this frame that I'm working on, and I noticed a chip out. Don't even know when it happened. I just noticed it. That won't work, but it's an easy fix. You could also use a block plane to pair this and get it nice and true. Sharp chisel will work, whatever you have. Of course, different ways to do that, but ultimately we need a nice, flat, true plane. And here I just took another chunk of cherry and chipped off a piece of wood. It happened to be in the right shape and grain orientation, and then I can clean that up with a block plane as well. And I'm realizing that some of these shots, these video angles are in your face. And I apologize that they're so up close, but hey, nowhere to hide. And a lot of times I notice that these repairs, they don't come out perfect, but they are so inconspicuous that they're not noticeable at all. And almost always super easy and quick to fix. And here I held this piece in place for about a minute, so of course the video is sped up, but you know, just long enough for the glue to tack up. One of the best tools in any wood shop is the proverbial blue tape. Yeah. And here I'm going to add a squeeze clamp that keeps the tape from releasing, and it also stretches it tight right where I need it. So years ago, when I used to run a pretty large crew of about 20 guys, and we would have situations, little problems, little mistakes, and I would have them, all right, let's weigh this out. How long will it take to fix this, whatever it was? And usually it was just minutes, right? And conversely, how long will it be like that? How long will it be wrong? Well, forever. So it was always an obvious choice. And here I really didn't mean to leave it sticking out that much, but no big shake. We can pair that. And I should be moving the chisel the other direction, but camera angle, and you know, you can see how it chipped out slightly right there, but that'll be hidden. Not exactly perfect. You can see it, slight crack there, but certainly better than it was before, right? And here it is with stain and finish on it. Turned out beautiful. You may recognize this from another video where I made this motif into a barn door, but this was the first rendition and I had a huge problem with it. Turned into, well, this wall hanging. So another mistake that I fixed. So yeah, mistake, hyphenate the word, take one, take two, as many takes as it takes, right? And there's little Lima. I think she loves that little cat door. And I believe she approves of the wall hanging. Anyway, that's it for this video. I hope you got some good use out of this. Maybe you can incorporate some of these ideas into your work. And as always, thanks a ton for watching.